Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed your Monday off. I hope you all had a good time, relaxed, had some fun. This is your homework for Tuesday. This should be a fairly short flip video on reflexive and intensive pronouns. So cute little cartoon, how to be self-reflexive. You are going to learn that today. So for this particular flip video, you do need to make a 2-flap foldable. You're going to fold it down. Your first flap should say reflexive pronouns, and these are needed. You need them to actually understand the sentence. The second should say intensive pronouns, and these are not needed. You can take them out, and the sentence does not change. It does not change the meaning of the sentence. So we're going to start with reflexive pronouns. So make your foldable, and then open your reflexive pronoun flap. The first thing you need to write across the very top of your flap is a reflexive pronoun is a pronoun that refers to the subject and is necessary to the basic meaning of the sentence. You might even want to underline the word necessary. Here are your reflexive pronouns. You need to put these in your notes underneath the definition you just wrote. You've got myself, yourself, herself. You should be seeing a pattern here. Himself, itself. Then you also have yourselves, ourselves, and themselves. So you've got your singular and your plural. Make sure these are all written down. Now there are 2 rules. Oh, and then students who cheat on the quiz are only hurting themselves. This is the example I would like you to write. Themselves reflects students. And it is necessary for the sentence, because if you simply said, students who cheat on the quiz are only hurting, well, it doesn't make sense. Themselves is needed for the sentence to make sense. See, there you go. That's what I just said. But you just have to write the example down. All right, so there are 2 rules. I think there's just 2. The first rule I want you to write is there must be a person to whom the pronoun can reflect. You just have to write the underlined part. You cannot use a reflexive pronoun if it doesn't reflect anything. For example, please hand that book to myself. Had you said, I need to hand that book to myself, you could use it. But since there's no I, myself can't reflect anything, so don't do that. The second rule, never use his self or their selves. They're not words. They're just not. Use himself or themselves. That's all you need to know. His self isn't a word, their self isn't a word. So write down that rule. Never use his self or their selves. That's all you have to write. This is just for you to mentally do. Think to yourself, we helped ourselves to the cake. Yeah, that's correct. Ourselves reflects we. And if you take it out, we helped to the cake, no longer makes sense. Therefore, you know it's reflexive. Here you've got Bob and myself are responsible for you. Myself does not reflect Bob, and there's no I, so it would just be Bob and I are responsible for you, or Bob and me are responsible for you. Which would it be? We'll have to learn that later. Number 3, they made dinner for themselves. Well, theirselves does reflect they, except for the fact that theirselves is not a word. So it would have to be themselves. Number 4, these decisions will be made by myself. No, not so much. Myself, there's no I in here that myself can reflect. Therefore, myself should be me. They should be made by me. I gave that book to myself for Christmas. Myself reflects I. I gave that book to for Christmas does not make sense, which means myself is a reflexive pronoun. Let's see how I did. Yep, Bob and I. I don't know why I would have thought me. What was I thinking, right? Got it? All right, moving right along. You can close that flap. Now we have intensive pronouns. At the very top of that flap, you need to write, they look like reflexive, but are really not needed to understand the meaning of the sentence. You can take them out and the sentence still makes perfect sense. That's how you can tell the difference between an intensive pronoun and a reflexive pronoun. Intensive is just intensifying the fact that it's that thing. And once again, remember, you don't actually have to write this. Just remember that the reflexive pronoun is necessary to the sentence. So if you look, the boy himself made breakfast. Well, you could take that himself out and just say the boy made breakfast, and it still makes perfect sense. The dog itself caught the ball. Once again, itself can be taken out. The dog caught the ball, and you're good. A lot of times, intensive pronouns are found right next to their antecedent, like himself is right next to boy, and itself is right next to dog. That's not always the case, but it is the majority of times. So let's see what you guys do. Number the bottom part of your intensive flap, 1 through 5, and you just have to write I if you think it's intensive or R if you think it's reflexive. Dan himself did not know where he put his pencil. Think to yourself. Can you take it out and it still makes sense? Dan did not know where to put his pencil. Yeah, it still makes sense. So what do you think? Intensive, reflexive? Number 2. Did Abby give herself a hug? Well, you could take herself out. Did Abby give a hug? But it changes the meaning of the sentence because she could have given the dog a hug. She could have given the bird a hug. She could have given anybody a hug. But herself lets you know who she gave a hug to. So it does help the meaning of the sentence. Therefore, intensive, reflexive. Chelsea and Rachel did that work themselves. Could you take out themselves? Chelsea and Rachel did the work. Doesn't change the meaning of the sentence at all. Intensive or reflexive. The dog made itself dizzy. Well, this one's easy. The dog made dizzy. Changes the meaning totally. So intensive or reflexive. Remember, it self-reflects dog or intensifies dog, whichever it could be. I read the book myself. Well, let's take out myself and see what happens. I read the book. Sounds the same. Same meaning. Intensive or reflexive. All right, let's see how you did. Number 1 is intensive. Number 2 is reflexive. Her reflects Abby. Number 3 is intensive. Themselves is not necessary to the basic meaning of the sentence. Number 4 is reflexive. Itself reflects the dog. And number 5 is intensive. Myself is not necessary to the basic meaning of the sentence. I hope you did well. All right, just a little cartoon. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. It's a reflexive pronoun. That means me. Do you get it? Justin just groaned. This is what the inside of your notes should look like. If they do not, please fix them so that they do look like this. And we will be going over intensive and reflexive pronouns tomorrow. The end.